the F1 fan with FU money, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to command it. You get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian. Woo! I'm telling Mama. Jenson Button, he's a championship F1 driver, won it in 09. Today, as we record, is the 13th anniversary of that historic F1 win. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I talked to you on CarCast and stuff. We got a lot to cover. Was Lewis Hamilton a teammate of yours early on?
Yeah, so I won the championship in 2009 with Brawn, and then thought I'd go for a new challenge, and that was to move to McLaren alongside Lewis Hamilton. So we spent 3 years as teammates, yeah.
He went on, of course, to become Lewis Hamilton. I guess he's got the record for most championships now.
Equal with Michael Schumacher.
Oh, equal. Yes. I think he has more wins, but he's equal. And Schumacher, we've talked about, dominant. I mean, before Hamilton, if you have one F1 championship, you are, in pretty rarefied air. If you have two, then you become more of a Niki Lauda, the person we've heard of. But if you have seven, that's unheard of. I don't know. The closest guy maybe has three after that.
Yeah. Well, it's not unheard of because there's two of them.
Well, there's two of them. It was unheard of. It was unheard of.
Once upon a time.
And Schumacher, we've talked about crazy skiing accident after all the years of F1 driving and all the parachuting the guy did and just crazy balls to the wall stuff, goes skiing, bunks his head, is in some condition.
I was going to say he's in seclusion, right?
He's in seclusion. He's alive. They never give any family, very guarded, no updates on what. Once in a while, somebody comes out with an article that says we saw him up and walking around, but you would probably know more than us.
No. I actually don't. I know nothing. Yeah.
This is why we do the pre-interview.
Exactly, yeah. No, I don't know anything. It's just unbelievably sad. I raced with Michael most of my career, from 2000 to 2006. And then he actually replaced me when I left Brawn. Brawn turned into Mercedes, F1 team. I left for McLaren, and he replaced me in 2010.
And when you're driving young Lewis Hamilton, are you going, oh, this guy's got it, or does everyone have it at that level?
He was already a world champion. So he won the world championship in 2008. I won it in 2009.
Oh, okay.
So I went into his team, the Lion's Den, as everyone said. But it was such an exciting challenge for me. And for me, my strength was team building and building a good team of people around me and setting up the car. In terms of natural ability, I probably didn't have what Lewis has, but I could build a good team around me. I could build a car that was great. And I could beat him because of strategy and the way that I built a race car and the way that I went racing.
Speaking of strategy, as everyone knows, I love the F1 Drive to Survive. It seems to be a fair amount of teammates taking out other teammates. And there's a strategy to having a teammate out there, but not when you hit each other. Then that goes out the window. But it's a bizarre sport in that football and baseball and basketball, you want everyone around you to achieve because you want to win. But in F1, you want to win, and one of the guys you got to beat is the guy on your own team.
It's like gymnastics.
Yeah. So, yeah. But has any incidents with you, or what do you make of that?
Well, the thing is, first of all, the most important person to beat is your teammate, because he's the only driver that has, or she's the only driver that has the same equipment as you do.
Oh, right.
There's no excuses. So, and also the other issue is that if you're both competitive, you're in the same car, so you're gonna pretty much be on the circuit at the same time at the same place. So that's why there's so many incidents. But yeah, there's been a lot over the years. Lewis and myself, we never crashed into each other. But the drivers that replaced him in the team when he left, yeah, we had a bit of a tussle here and there.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the exact same equipment with almost the same ability. So on lap 13, you're going to be in about the same spot.
Exactly.
Well, that's my question. What, for those of us who don't know, like Gene over there,
That's right.
what separates like a champion from just a driver in the middle of the pack? Because I imagine everyone's talented enough to be an F1 driver. What is the X factor that separates? I assume it changes from time to time.
Yeah, there's a couple of tenths between drivers basically, and that's what makes you a world champion or not, which is crazy, right? 0.2 of a second around a lap. It's nothing. It's a blink of an eye.
So is that luck? Is that just the way the cookie crumbles, or is there some X factor with some drivers and not with others?
Yeah, well, it comes from natural ability, which isn't something that you've designed into yourself. It's a God-given gift.
True.
But then there's working on your abilities and working on your engineering strengths and developing your drivers, your driving style through your career. So a lot of hard work and effort. And some of the drivers like Mark Webber was a great driver at Red Bull, and his strengths were he worked really, really hard. Sebastian Vettel, the same thing. He put in the effort. Some drivers think, well, I've got the natural ability. I don't really need to go that extra mile when it comes to engineering. But that is wrong. You'll never win like that. I think for Lewis, he has found himself, as we all do that win a championship, in a good car. But he's found himself in a team that just can consistently give him a good package. But he's also living up to it. He's doing a consistent job every year. That's the thing I've seen with Lewis over the years. He has improved himself in many different areas. When we were teammates, unbelievably quick, but mentally probably didn't have the strength. And, I tried to build the team around me and he couldn't understand why I was doing that. And then he realized. The same with his next teammate, which is Nico Rosberg. The same thing again. He learned so much from him. So Lewis has become the complete package over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I would say.
He's currently maybe third or fourth in the points or something. He's dropped down a little bit from his normal dominance, but he's still super quick, even though he's got to be the oldest guy out there now.
He's sixth, I think, 6th or 7th in the championship. But, he didn't, the Mercedes car this year hasn't been as competitive as the Ferrari or the Red Bull, but they always get the results. They always bring it home. They don't make mistakes. But he struggled against his teammate, another British driver called George Russell at the start of the year. But after 6 or 7 races, Lewis sorted himself out, and again he's showing why he's a 7-time world champion. So he's doing a good job. But no, this sport is a tricky one because you can look at it and go, well, Lewis is the best guy in the world, and he might well be, but we're never really going to know because we're not all in the same car in Formula One. It is such a team sport, and the car makes a big difference.
We have F1 is in Austin, a Circuit of the Americas, and then this year went to Miami now, which seems exciting, and now is going to Vegas. So I've learned street course, Vegas, and going to be on the Strip.
Damn!
Now, not the whole race, but they'll spill out.
They're going from the Mirage to the Stratosphere.
Onto the Strip, which sounds just like a crazy ass spectacle. When is that going off? Do you know?
It is November next year, so just over a year from now, we will see F1 cars going down the strip, which is mad.
Lord.
Yeah, they have got some other corners. It's not just a drag race.
Yeah.
I mean, the circuit itself, it doesn't look, it can't compare to some of the best tracks in the world. But I think as a spectacle, it's a must. I think Vegas and Formula One, it just works.
Well, and for people like me, as Brian pointed out, who might not know as much about racing as others, I would tune in for that. That's something that broadens the appeal for somebody who is new to this.
Yeah, well, I think the great thing is there's a lot of hotels there, and you can watch from the hotels as well.
Oh, sure.
Of
So it
course,
goes past a lot of the hotels, so it's perfect. It really is, and I think it's the one that everyone's going to want to go to. One, because get away to Vegas for the weekend, kind of fun, and you get to watch an F1 race as well.
The one time you want to stay at Imperial Palace.
Yeah.
You've got a great view.
Going off at 10 at night.
Yeah.
Too, a nighttime
That'd
be awesome.
Vegas race. What a spectacle. And there was a street race in downtown LA for a number of years.
I've seen Fast and Furious, bro. I get it.
Sanctioned in probably the mid to later 80s, like Trans Am and maybe Indy was out there, sort of like what they do in Long Beach.
Wow.
Where they have it. And Long Beach is cool because people do pile up in the hotels along the back straight, or I guess the front straight, but not shoreline. And, they they tailgate up out on their balconies.
Boom.
So, yeah, I wonder if we can figure that. When was this street race in L.A., or maybe it was just 1 year? I know I was talking to you on CarCast about hooking up with Keanu Reeves and doing a doc on yourself in Formula One for Disney Plus coming out soonish. How'd that come about?
It was obviously it was 13 years ago now. It's crazy, but it was a really interesting year in the sport because we have all these manufacturers that come into the sport after 5 years. They fight for a world championship, most of them. But for us, it was a private team that went and beat the big guns. So Keanu Reeves and his team of people got very excited about the opportunity with Disney Plus. And wanted to make a documentary about it because obviously when you look at that year you think, oh, what a beautiful year that was, privateer beating the big guns, but there's always a dark side to it, and there's always lots of interesting stories that are not told. So they've been doing their digging. I've spent 3 days with Keanu filming and lots of interviews, and he's been all over the world interviewing all the relevant people. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the finished product.
I saw him when I was at Goodwood some years back out there. So he's really nuts and bolts car guy, motorcycle guy, too. Speaking of Goodwood, I know you just got back from doing that. So Goodwood is one of these things that everyone should go experience once, even if you're not a car person. It's just something that you would never be able to fully reproduce here in the States. Some of it's just topography, like big green rolling hills and the English countryside. Everyone dressing in the period garb, showing up for cream cheese and cucumber sandwiches with the crust cut off and drinking champagne.
I'm sorry, did you have spats in a pocket watch and nobody told us?
I had the cap and had the tweed blazer on. You must dress accordingly. Otherwise, I'm not sure if you get into that place.
Good.
But they have the Festival Speed, which is, its own nutty race up Lord March's driveway, which I've done a couple of times. But then they have the race, the circuit. That's at a different place. That's at a different time. And that's about the craziest event ever because you have all these vintage cars, and they're multi-million-dollar cars. Like, you want to think about sort of a rich guy sport. You own a Ferrari GTO that's worth $70 million, and you go, I'm going to get a guy like Jenson, and he's going to race it at Goodwood, and I want you to drive the shit out of this car. And if you hit somebody, we'll fix it. And I have seen Ferrari 250 LMs there get balled up, like get off the track, mash the whole front end. Same car spun out, mashed the rear. They're putting duct tape on it, and they're going back out. It's some of the craziest racing, and the track's just sort of in the middle of the countryside, and it's all grass. The track's asphalt, but as soon as you get one tire off of that track, you start sliding into, and you don't slow down at all, and you hit hay bales and tires, and the cars are old, so they're kind of dangerous. They cut it off at 1965, I think.
So nary an airbag in sight.
No, they cut it off at 65 because the track was deemed like too dangerous. Yeah, there's me looking at a Jag.
Look at you.
And speaking of what we call a ringer here in the States, Jenson drove a Jag, I don't know, E-Type or something just a few weeks ago there.
Yeah, it was a lightweight Jaguar E-Type. I think there were 12 built. There it is. It's absolutely beautiful.
So that's
beautiful.
I think the last one
$14 million bucks.
Yeah, I think the last one sold for 11 million pounds. And this is actually Adrian.
Ooh, $14 million bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Adrian
not
Newey's.
today.
Not today. Yeah, this is Adrian Newey's car. Adrian Newey's the designer, for people that don't know, at Red Bull, and has been for years. He was also a designer at McLaren, at Williams, and has won multiple world championships. And I got to drive his lightweight E-Type, and as you can imagine, there's not a lot that's original on this, but amazing bit of kit. But it's still racing on those tiny, skinny, old school tires. You cannot change that. But an amazing bit of kit. The only thing that they can do is a roll cage, which
That's
makes
nice
it
of them.
a little bit safer. Yes.
Yeah, but they don't want to be too robust in building that roll cage because It's just weight,
Right.
and it all makes a difference. We have you driving that car. Just what was it? 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was, and this is actually the lap record in a GT car now around Goodwood. So we set the lap record. This
Imagine what you would have done if you're on the right side.
Exactly. Yeah, I bet you're looking at it going, why is that steering wheel there?
It's confusing.
I did the math pretty quickly.
But yeah, this, as you can see, this is through turn one, and there's grass on the exit. Oh, and there's a tyre barrier and people. And we're doing, it's obviously in kilometers on the bottom right, but that's sort of 135 miles an hour through there.
Oh, boy.
And you're just dancing the whole way around the track. This corner's called No Name. I don't know why, but there's 4 gears in a Jaguar E-Type. We've just gone down to third for the right and then the left. This is always a tricky one. Big snaps of oversteer on the exit. But listen to it. Listen to that.
I love it.
How cool.
It's such a thrilling experience just to watch. I couldn't imagine racing it. And when they race, they all go for it.
Oh yeah, it's door banging all the way around. But it's all professional drivers that get to drive these cars. They're guests. And you'd have a pit stop during the race, and the owner gets in. But as you saw there, we hit 248 kilometers, which is 155 miles an hour.
In just a tub from the
60s
with skinny ass old school tires on it. That's where all the sawing at the wheel comes from.
Yeah, it's really going back and forth. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a key dangling.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know why it's got a key in it. But
They like it. They keep it old school over there. But now everyone has figured it out. There's no more gentleman drivers over there. They all have jockeys, professional ringers in there.
Yeah, so this year we had Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, really?
NASCAR great
driver.
racing. Scott Dixon came over as well from IndyCar. So we had some true greats racing.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
What do you reckon? Like, you take your class out there, what are there, 15, 20 cars, 22 cars, something like that?
Formula One, you mean? Or?
No, in
this?
Yeah.
It's like 35 cars.
Oh, is it that
racing.
many cars? So there's hundreds of millions of dollars of cars out on that field at the same time. Yeah, Chris, you got to find some good action from any race. Doesn't need Jenson, sorry. But it's crazy how hard those guys go at it in other people's cars that are multi-million. Does anyone give you a talk about bringing it back in one piece?
No, that's the thing. If you did, it wouldn't work. You know, if they
Right.
said, well, if you damage it, you got to pay for it, then no one's going to turn
I'm
up.
out.
So,
Or even just say, take it easy
jinx
out
it. You
there.
jinx
It's
it
an
away.
expensive car.
yeah, so is this the year before? That was me in an AC Cobra, actually, the blue one.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
You're the one in front?
no, the blue one.
Oh, yeah.
So that's me in an AC Cobra, which was last year. This is a Colombian, actually an original Colombian AC Cobra.
Yeah, all the history, and nobody gets into this race in anything that's a repop or a reboot or a reimagination of or anything.
You look down.
It's all from then.
They have to have had history to race at Goodwood.
I see.
So
Yeah, super.
I didn't know if it was a faux pas or gauche.
No, it has to be a period history. Else Duke of Richmond doesn't let the car race.
Oh, wow.
That is quite a phrase.
And there's like Spitfires and Lancaster bombers or flying overhead. I mean, it's just the craziest. It's just the funnest day ever.
I've never actually even seen a car that shape before.
That's Shelby built that Cobra, but in Europe they put not in Europe. Well, for Le Mans they would have put a roof on it to get a little more aero out of it. But there you go.
Wow.
Challenging for first place. It's crazy. It's probably pretty damn dangerous too, considering the safety and the technology and the equipment, right?
Well, I don't know. I say you're not going that quick. Don't tell my wife that we're 155 miles an hour. But no, it's funny because I've driven so many things through my career that are so technically advanced. But then we love getting back into this. It's so mechanical. You've got a gear stick. You've got 3 pedals on the floor. And that connection is great. And that's, EV, I understand it. It's a direction that we're going to go, or hydrogen, or biofuels, who knows. But the connection is lost, definitely, when you go to EV.
Yeah, it is so visceral, that experience. Yes, Gene.
We talk on the show sometimes about how there's almost no better example of being present in the moment than being in that car. You cannot think about anything else, I would imagine. So I'm wondering what your tricks is the wrong word, but do you have a pattern of do you find it to be a meditative experience? Do you visualize beforehand? Do you just get in and go?
Well, there's for me, getting in a racing car is an interesting one because there's certain racing that I would never do. One is IndyCar. I've lost a couple of big competitors in IndyCar, which is it's so sad, and they're very, very brave racing drivers that race in IndyCar around ovals. For me, the problem is if somebody tricked me into getting into an IndyCar, as soon as I put my crash helmet on and close the visor, I forget about all the dangers that are involved in it. So I need to make sure I realize before getting in a car that it's not for me and I think it's too dangerous. And then when I do get into a racing car, it's the most peaceful place in the world. I always used to say that with Formula One. Like, you must be so stressed when you get in the car. It's like, no, it's the most peaceful place. All the bullshit is done with. Yeah. Now it's you, the car, the road, and your competitors. And it's such a special place for a racing driver.
Wow. How poetic.
I think there's also kind of a physical part of it, too, which is you're cocooned. I mean, they talk about those thunder vests for your dog that's skittish. There is something to getting completely suited up and then strapped down, which sounds very angst-producing for a lot of people. But there's a back in the womb kind of vibe to it, just being pulled down into the seat with those harnesses.
You're basically strapped to a missile, but you're in control of. That's the whole thing.
It's funny. This is the one area I can contribute to this conversation. I don't know if you ever had an MRI before. A lot of people, most people, I think, get like really claustrophobic and they don't like it. It's too tight. It's whatever. I love it. It's like you're in there. It's soothing. There's kind of vibrations. I think there's a small percent of the population that likes those sort of enclosed spaces, whether it's race car, MRI machine, those things.
No. I absolutely hate an MRI.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And I think it's because it's a control thing.
Yeah.
I'm not in control of it. If I had the button that pulled me out, I'd be fine.
I know you've got the squeeze ball.
Yeah,
but you can call people over.
But that's just scary.
That's the panic button.
Exactly. It's embarrassing then. I'll try everything not to be embarrassed. So no, I would just have a fit in there instead. But no, that scares me. But I think again, it's a control thing for us. Okay. I'm a terrible passenger. I would never get in a racing car with a racing driver driving.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I wouldn't even get in as a passenger if I was driving.
Oh, right. That's man, my mind is blown. You driving as a passenger in your own car. Well, I'm a good passenger, I realize, if I think the person here's an insight.
How many times have you reached over and honked someone's horn?
Million times. I am a great passenger for a qualified race car driver. I'm a horrible passenger for your slow ass driving because there's a guy in front of you who could have turned right on the red 10 minutes ago and we're just sitting there, and that's why I have to reach across and honk your horn, and then the hand immediately flies back and then they flick off the person who's driving.
Why would you do that?
Uber drivers, not a fan.
Yeah, so I can't be a passenger in a car that's going slow. That's and with a driver who doesn't know how to drive. But I would get in with you.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's do it. Let's make this happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we get that Jag lightweight E-Type, we'll put me in the left side and then I'll pretend like I'm driving.
Have you ever been off-road?
No.
On purpose.
In race cars. Yeah, I've been off-road. I've not... I don't know. I don't think I've ever done any of this serious or even non-serious, like real off-roading stuff, which is crazy, right?
Well, on the 30th, I'm actually racing at Nitro Rallycross at Glen Helen.
Wow.
Which is only about, 45 minutes an hour from here?
It's not too far,
No, and it's a 1,000 horsepower electric vehicle. And
it's electric.
Yes, there's massive jumps on dirt. I'm not very good at it. It's a whole new thing for me. But then the day after the race, we've got the circuit for 3 or 4 hours to take passengers out.
We gotta do it.
So if you're brave, brave enough.
I'll do it. I wasn't factoring in jumping, like going airborne, but I would try that. Although I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be a passenger in. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but and Chris, you can look for it. The trophy truck race at Long Beach Grand Prix. They open. You've seen it. They've decided once the Indy cars are done for the weekend, the last race is going to be trophy trucks, big 4-wheel drive. Well, it's probably rear wheel, but big desert trucks, right? And then they decided we need to set up ramps
Get some air.
in the straightaway so these guys could land on each other. And they're hauling ass down asphalt, and then they get launched on a metal ramp. And when they go around the curve, the car goes up on 2 wheels.
That's great.
Or at least 3. It's a crazy ass. That I wouldn't do. Would you do that?
Well, I've raced Baja before in a trophy truck, but we don't get as much air as those things because they're a little bit smaller and they're a little bit quicker as well. But they're above the barriers. You know, they build these safe barriers, right, for the cars in case they crash and they don't fly over and hit people. And these things actually jump higher than the barriers.
Somebody's going in the stands, and I'm saying go out and enjoy it while you can. Because after they go into the stands...
I mean, they're not built. They're not built for tarmac.
They're not built for the asphalt.
Here we go.
Have a shot at it in the hairpin.
Oh, the big jump is on the straightaway.
Yeah, but they're jumping and turning at the same time.
Yes.
That's never a good thing.
They're locking up tires everywhere. They're banging into each other everywhere.
Turn around, man.
It doesn't get any better. Look at that.
Damn. In your childhood, could you even imagine?
He's got it in reverse now. You know he has. Yeah.
Oh, careful.
And this is...
DNF.
I was actually asked to do this a couple of years ago.
That's a hard pass.
I'm really happy that I turned it down because that looks nuts.
Are those decals?
Yeah.
Yes, everything is just stuck on for weight. That is a crazy ass endeavor.
It's Robbie Gordon. He raced NASCAR and a few things and off-road trucks, and it's his baby, that category.
You did the Baja 1000?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was good for 250 miles, and then the truck broke in the hills. So nobody could get to us, and it was the year that it rained a lot. So our support crew couldn't get there. We were there for 17 hours. 17 hours in 2019. My co-driver and I, luckily he's a ex-military boy, and he looked after me, because otherwise I would have been lost. I've been running around like a headless chicken. But 17 hours through the night, it was freezing.
Is there any, the trucks have a spare tire, but do they have jerky and Gatorade?
we had energy bars and water, but we were running out pretty quickly, and it was also very cold. So we were getting twigs to make a fire, but that's all there was. And he was using gearbox oil to actually start the fire because it doesn't burn as quickly. So I was like, that's very clever.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have no idea. But I heard there's a lot of scorpions as well in the hills. But he told me that after.
Did you try to sleep at some point? Did you just sit in the truck?
It got too cold. And then we got helicoptered out of there in the morning.
Wow.
Damn.
17 hours, though. Watching all these cars fly past.
You don't flag anyone down.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody stopped and we're like, oh, my God, they're stopping for us. And he said, can you wipe my visor on my helmet? I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye.
No faith in humanity anymore.
The Jenson's got an event that's coming up in Austin, the Williams Racing Experience, and that'll be today through Sunday. That'll be downtown Austin, and then Austin City Limits. You got Robin Thicke and Wyclef Jean and Shaggy going to be performing as well. How'd you put this together?
It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, Williams done a great job, and I'm a little bit nervous because I'm supposed to be going backstage and interviewing them in their dressing room.
You're composed. Mm-hmm. You're good.
Any ideas on questions to ask them?
Shaggy, was it you?
That's funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to love that.
Yeah, you never got
Never
that
been
before.
asked.
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait.
I think honestly, if I could be really brutally honest, I think the accent's going to buy you at least 2 questions before they figure out that anything's amiss.
They might think you're Chris Martin from Coldplay.
That's true.
And you could
No.
just sit down as a fellow musician.
Well, there's a couple of great stories about this. I was at Heathrow Airport waiting for my flight, and this lady comes over, American, Southern, and she comes over and goes, "I am your biggest fan." I'm like, "Really?" She went, "Yeah, my whole family, biggest fan." I went, "Oh, thank you so much." She went, "We have all of your albums."
Oh, boy.
I was like, "Oh, you think I'm Chris Martin?"
Now, if she said records, you could have been the record I said at Goodwood.
Oh yeah, and then she was so sweet. She said, "What do you do?" I said, "I race cars, Formula One." She went, "Oh, we're also your big fans."
Oh, that's
Like,
right.
oh, thank you. That was very sweet of you. And then I saw Chris Martin a few weeks ago on the same flight, and he walked on. He went, "Hey, Jenson." He said, "Just so you know, people keep thinking I'm you." I'm like, "Chris, wow." I did not expect that from Chris Martin, but yeah, we do kind of look alike. He's a little bit better with a microphone.
You're better at the wheel, and you both probably have the same sort of accent, I'm guessing.
Similar,
About the
similar.
same age
He's-
and
Yeah, we are similar. He's a little older, but you know.
about the same everything. Except for the Gwyneth Paltrow part, although you could still work on that. The day is young. Again, this is all going. I'm trying to think where to send. Well, you can go to, where should people go if they want to find tickets or any information on the event, Jenson?
Oh, wow, perfect. You put me on the spot there. You are asking.
Chris Martin would know.
Great.
Yeah.
Chris Martin would know, even though he's not performing.
Jenson Button, you can shoot him a tweet and probably get back to you. And the event.
And Adam, you could follow at Williams Racing, and you'll find the
At Williams
yeah,
Racing,
that's
and
right.
the Austin City Limits is on Friday night, I do believe. All right, let me hit Simply Safe here. Thinking about protecting your home, but waiting for the right time right now. Adam Carolla Show listeners get 40% off. Best home security of 2022. U.S. News and World Report says, I use it. I trust Simply Safe. This stuff is sleek. It's ergonomic. You don't have to wire it up. It's all battery powered. The batteries are very small. They last up to 10 years. No drilling, no pulling wires. 24/7 professional monitoring. Cost under $1 a day. Less than half the cost of ADT's professional installed plans. Don't miss a chance to save big and protect your home. Get 40% off your order at simplysafe.com/Adam today. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes. That is simplysafe.com/Adam. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, Jenson Button, thank you so much. Good luck this weekend.
He doesn't need luck.
And I'll hopefully see you in the e-truck for the hot lap passenger ride coming up.
You look so excited.
I'll bring my own Hans device. How about that? All right, quick break. I think we're going to do some breaking news, and we'll be back with Max Pat on that right after this.
In the spirit of Murrow, Jennings, Cronkite, here's another great moment in local news.
10 people died in the Bronx last night due to a fire that killed 10 people in the Bronx last night during a fire.
Fire officials say all 10 people died due to the fire, which was too hot for their bodies.
That's a great moment in local news. Now, back to the Adam Carolla Show.
That can't be true.
Unconfirmed.
Can't be real.
Unconfirmed.
Can't be real.
Although, I don't know, Kamala Harris speaks that way, right? The community we live in is the community we are in.
Sure.
And
Gas
it
prices
takes
are high because they're not low.
Yeah, like maybe that's the new world order. Maybe
Yeah.
we're the dumb ones.
Yeah, and maybe the teleprompter was off and you
I
had
was
to
gonna
tap
say.
dance.
Yeah, a copy
Speaking
and
of-
paste job.
Sorry to interrupt here, but I got the audiobook for the George Orwell's 1984 because it's one of those books that I never read in high school and I was supposed to. Listened through to it, and this way of speaking is a huge part of the book, because if you eliminate language, you eliminate people's ability to make an argument.
Everything is double plus good.
Newspeak.
Yeah.
Like I said, early 25 years ago, plus even when I was on the radio, my spidey sense would tingle a lot when people, I'd say, "Oh, so you're blind?" "I'm seeing impaired." But now just think about seeing impaired replacing blind, and think about what we've done with the word assault, for instance.
Sure.
I don't know what it means anymore. I cannot tell if this actor, he assaulted the young ingenue. Did he go Bill Murray on, like sit on her lap on the set, or did we talk about a rape in a hotel room? Like,
seeing impaired has a wide range of definitions.
Yeah.
That's
impaired.
what I yelled at the guy.
Severely impaired.
Anyone with
moderately-
glasses is seeing impaired.
I said my grandfather can't drive at night because he's seeing impaired, but he could drive during the day because he's impaired, but he can't do night.
Right.
But blind, I don't
stay off the road.
I know much less about you because you corrected my blind with seeing impaired, and he meant blind. I mean, now that means blind now, and so, we also, rape victim became rape survivor and things of that nature, and I just kept going, why are we monkeying with all these words? And then we sort of moved incrementally slowly from this time in the mid to late 90s to about 2018. And then if this was a chart, it would just start ramping up. Like, first off, I didn't know we were going to invent Latinx. Like, we're now inventing words that mean something that nobody knows. And then the general attack on language, it's kind of diabolical, because now no one really knows what anyone is talking about.
Well, isn't that kind of the point?
Well, let's put it to you this way. I've said, a million times, there's never been a better time to be an actual racist, because you shall be lumped in,
Or rapist.
with me and Dennis Prager, not in the rape department. But if you would, like, if somebody said, what would you wish for your child? And 40 years ago, if your son sexually assaulted another student, it'd be like, holy shit, we better lawyer up and you're going to prison, dude. Now it's like he sexually assaulted. Everyone kind of goes,
What did he do?
What are we talking? He walked in the wrong bathroom. What happened?
Speaking of fuzzy definitions, the blind thing made me think of it, because one of my greatest accomplishments on this show was calling the Rachel Dolezal thing 36 hours before it broke. That was incredible. How long until someone identifies as blind, even if they're not blind, identify as a blind person, or identify as a parent of 7 for tax purposes?
I mean, people do it all the time, but when are we going to support it?
Yeah, if you're a CPA, call in tomorrow, because I want to know what are your clients.
I'm claiming a baker's dozen this year.
Exactly.
I started. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I identify as a blind person, thus I get this tax benefit.
Well, I mean, we already have the kind of version of it, the handicap placard, park wherever you want, even though you're a star player on the USC football team.
UCLA, how dare you?
I knew it started with a U.
That's hurtful.
Then there's that version with the dogs on the planes, and now there's a kind of fuzzy, everyone's a survivor of something. Everyone slept in their car.
That's true. That one actually confuses me a little. I'm just sending something to Chris and Ben. Because I thought you would appreciate that they're like, I'm not a victim. I survived it. I've moved on. That you would like the word survivor better than the word victim.
My pushback was more, well, a couple things. I had survivor to me was more involving maritime disasters or airplane crashes or something like that. Number one.
Thank you for clarifying.
Here's why I don't like survivor, I guess. Well, okay, so my first impulse was, why must we change this word? Okay. That's my first. So my initial pushback is always, I'm just pushing back because you guys are coming at me with a new word now. But the next one was, if you are a rape victim versus a rape survivor, then doesn't that lessen it for the rapist? Because you victimized a person. You created a victim. In order to have a survivor can be mechanical failure in a helicopter. Right. But a victim means there's like sabotage. You know, like for a victim, there must be a perp.
Okay.
A survivor, you don't need a perp.
Right.
Traditionally,
it could be a volcano.
Survivors were just nobody committed
died.
an atrocity upon you. So I guess what I was pushing back on is letting the person that caused you to be a victim a little bit off the hook when you get downgraded to survivor.
Okay, that's interesting. I appreciate that. I forgot. I took these pictures for you guys at the Little League game because now Kid Boy has Little League every weekend. So there's always the same two fancy cars parked in the two handicap parking spots in the
That's got to be rich grandma, rich grandpa.
But they walk and they have their world music blaring. They've been asked several times to please turn it down so we can watch the kids. Anyway, if that gives you a vague idea of where we are. But let me show you the two cars, one license plate, and then the car parked right next to it. Worry about you. Mm-hmm. And then that's the license plate. Every single weekend, there is this sign taped to the inside of this car. It's a huggy emoji, and it says, "Dear self-appointed parking monitor, next time try minding your own business. It's legal on my end. Have a fantastic day."
What does this mean?
But have
they been confronted? Do you think by someone like, why are you in a handicap spot?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. And they park next to each other in the two handicap spots every weekend in the Little League parking.
And are they watching the game?
I mean, it's also kind of a public park. They might be walking the track in Old Bev Hills.
And they're blaring music?
They like to walk and they like to listen to their world music loudly on their phone.
What is wrong? What is going on with people?
I don't know.
It's just there's a handicap parking space, and it's meant for handicapped people.
Maybe the person came skipping out of the driver's side. I don't know, but this sign is always in their window. Next time, try minding your own business.
Wow.
Yeah.
The thing about
passive aggressive
minding one's business is most people would prefer to mind their own business.
Yeah, you're calling attention.
I had to stop and take a picture of this car.
You're inviting their business into your business.
Yes.
Well, it looks like there's a handicap placard swinging from the rear view.
That's why I thought maybe they came bounding out of the car and somebody said, "Are you sure you're supposed to have that placard?"
What? I don't get all the energy for other people you don't know.
But the fact that these two cars are in
That's
tandem.
your whole bit, man.
That's my whole bit.
And then the other guy just makes it easier. Worry about you.
Yeah. That's not bad.
They're got to be married.
Jesus Christ. Well, self-esteem movement.
Yep.
Thank everyone who went hard on the self-esteem movement. All right. Dawson's got the story of Wahlberg moving to Vegas. I don't know if you guys heard this one.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Oh, no, Dawson doesn't have this one. But Mark Wahlberg,
sorry.
yeah, he went on the talk, and it'll explain it in this video clip here.
First kids.
That's what that is the biggest challenge right there, Cheryl. As you know, every free moment that I have, I'm at home. I moved to Nevada where after this gubernatorial election, hopefully go to legislation and get a bill passed so we can get tax credits for the state, build a state-of-the-art studio here, and make this Hollywood 2.0. I want to be able to work from home. I moved to California many years ago to pursue acting, and I've only made a couple of movies in the entire time that I was there. So to be able to give my kids a better life and follow and pursue their dreams, whether it be my daughter as an equestrian, my son as a basketball player, my youngest son as a golfer, this made a lot more sense for us to go and hopefully build a studio as well as a shoe factory and a factory for municipal. So we came here to, just kind of give ourselves a new look, a fresh start for the kids. And there's lots of opportunity here. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about the future.
Okay. He's a Republican, and he can't stand California or Newsom anymore. That's why he's moving. Yeah, but Okay. First off, who goes to Nevada or Vegas when he's saying a better life for his kid's going to have a pretty damn good life wherever. He's basically saying, I can leave you a lot more shit if I go do my business over here. And that's why he's moving. It is interesting in that guy's career who came out to California to act.
Rap.
He's probably not done many jobs in L.A. or California.
Yeah.
He came out here to act, and he's doing all this stuff in New Mexico and Canada and God knows, Prague, wherever else.
And how awesome would it be for many people, for production to be in Vegas instead of halfway across the country?
Yeah, how awesome would it be if he took every other asshole from Boston with him?
Yeah.
Wow.
You hear that, Orny?
The fuck out.
Fired.
I don't think that Governor Newsom really knows how mobile people are now.
He's not getting the hint?
He doesn't seem to get the hint. You want these guys that are huge tax base people that are building these huge companies and creating so many jobs. You want them to stay. And I think, as a Californian who's same age as Newsom or thereabouts, has lived here my entire life, we've had a steady diet of 50 years of, as Newsom said, where are you going to go?
Right.
We're here. It's like
everything's here.
It's 50 years of we're here. People come to us. But as the climate gets bad, not from meteorological standpoint, but just the financial and the vibe, and people start leaving, at some point you got to go, I guess people are leaving. We need to correct course or figure something out or give them incentives to hang in or something. How many studios were there outside of Los Angeles 20 years ago? Atlanta, building these major studios, and then abroad,
There's just Canada, right?
There's
Toronto.
Nobody really, people didn't leave town traditionally to film.
Well, and I love the images of, you're at the Warner Brothers lot and there's a Roman soldier and there's a cowboy. Like, we don't really, that doesn't really happen
there's
anymore.
the house from Psycho.
Right.
And all that stuff. There's the shark from Jaws.
But that's what I'm saying, because they're actually working that day on a movie set, not just in a North Korea way.
Yeah, he's a Republican. He wants money. And that will spell a better life for his kids. But I don't know, when the Elon Musks and the Wahlbergs and a lot of big tech, when they start heading for Nevada or Texas, I don't know, pump the brakes. Look around. Put together a little committee and go, well, what's going on here? While the U-Haul's going the other direction, why are we down on population for the first time in a million years in terms of people coming here versus the number exiting here? Let's put a little panel together and figure this out.
Is that just straight hubris? I'll show you, I'm digging my heels in? Or is it just he just doesn't notice?
I think the New World Order is people don't reevaluate or pump the brakes or what have you.
Yeah, never admit this going the wrong way.
Right.
The promise of you can go skiing and go to the beach in the same day only goes so far. That's a nice idea, and it's like, oh, how sweet. But it's like, I got to raise my kids and, they go to school.
Yeah.
Well, and also, let's just say I'm getting out of high school in 1982. Moving to North Carolina would have sounded insane. Or South Carolina, it would, or Nashville. It would have been bizarre if somebody went from North Hollywood to Nashville. It's because there was an army base there or something, and they had to do something basic training in Tennessee. It was unthinkable. And we talk about crunching numbers and looking at data, but I've got to tell you, I've talked to so many people, and again, it's not hard science, but in a weird way, it's kind of all the science you need to know. So I've always said, you'll be an expert on who's homeless by driving through a pile of homeless people and go, there's a junkie, and that guy's taking a shit over there, and that guy's fighting over an ironing board with another guy who hasn't bathed in 10 years. And then they go, these are mothers who were let go from the... And you go, nah, I've not seen it. I've not seen it. I'm not taking numbers. I'm not an advocate. I'm looking. I got eyes. Yeah. I've never seen this. And I now talk to lots of people who left California, who've gone Nashville, a lot of Florida, a lot of Texas. I've not heard one regret. I've only heard, oh, God, I wish I'd done this 5 years earlier. I've not. You would think, and again, this isn't looking at studying data.
No.
This is just would be a couple that you knew that went to one of the Carolinas, that went to Nashville, that went to Florida, that went to Texas, and then 3 years later they moved back because it just wasn't happening over there. Like all I've ever heard of best fucking thing, best idea I've ever had, and that's from everybody, and I've not heard of anyone moving back.
No, so Vinny was sort of the tip of the spear on that.
Right. That's about all the data you need.
Yeah.
All right. We have, speaking of, we're talking at the top about words and meanings and morphing everything into something else. There's an op-ed on the New York Times. I think Charles Blow penned it. He's a race hustler, and he's explaining, I think, that we're the problem is we're running short on white people in California, but we need racism. But if it's the minority that's being the racist, it doesn't really work. So he's kind of expanding the definition of it based on the LA City Council Hispanics who were going at it with their race.
A revealing racist rant in LA. I have a theory about the future of America that I don't want to come true. It is a theory that worries me and that I have written about, that with the browning of America, white supremacy could simply be replaced by, or buffeted by, a form of light supremacy, in which fairer-skinned people perpetuate a modified anti-blackness rather than eliminating it. The racist comments revealed this week on a recording of Latino leaders in Los Angeles, 3 city council members, and a labor union leader did nothing to allay those fears. In the recordings, the council president, Nuri Martinez, who resigned as council president on Monday and resigned from the council on Wednesday, offered the most egregious comments. She insulted people in the crudest, most racially offensive ways, comparing a colleague's black son to a monkey and appearing to insult Oaxacans, people from the disproportionately indigenous Oaxaca region of Mexico.
They are outraged in this city right now.
By calling them little, short, dark people.
Sounds
funny. Awesome, please.
Who are ugly. I was actually just thinking of Brian getting that drop. And I'm glad I
fucked it up for me.
Yeah. But what disturbs me the most is the racial, ethnic tribalism of her political calculations. After all, the recording is of a meeting to discuss the city's once-in-a-decade redistricting process. This is a meeting about power, about who can be helped or hurt by how districts are drawn. On the recording, when former Los Angeles County Federation of Labor President Ron Herrera says, "I'm sure Katz and his crew have an agenda," referring to the former state assembly member Richard Katz, who is Jewish. Martinez responds that the Jews, quote, cut their deal with South LA.
Here we go again.
Oh, the Jews. Back in the news.
Even more directly, Martinez dismisses one official by saying, expletive, that guy, he's with the blacks.
Well, look.
I will again.
I've said it many times. If you're going to break us off into 100 teams, then teams shall do battle.
Yeah.
And there's
it's two prison yard.
Yeah, look, there's 2 parts. You got to root for your own team, and then you got to wish damage upon the other team. That's the 2 sides of you hope your team wins, but you'd like the other team's quarterback taken out.
True.
So that's what happens
100%.
when you never stop talking about this.
Gets more to the point further on. They were doing the work of white supremacy.
Oh, man. I thought we got to sit this one out.
And not because they see white power as one and the same as their own. At one point in the recording, while discussing whether the council member Mark Ridley Thomas, who is black and under investigation, or did he plead guilty already?
He's in trouble.
Will continue to be paid after his indictment on corruption charges, Martinez says. Martinez says, it's not us, it's the white members on this council that will expletive you in a heartbeat. Inter-minority racism is complex in some ways, but simple in others.
This is what you want in a city, a miniature race war going on amongst the city council people, trying to figure out what's best for us.
Sure.
It's awesome.
Wasn't the Mark Ridley Thomas thing, like the $1 million office remodel?
There's a few scandals going on.
One of them is USC thing. He got money from US or scholarship for his son to USC, full ride for special.
We got a few.
Council.
We got a
special teams.
We got like a
yeah. It's the new punter.
We got like a hotline that was set up with a no competition contract that was given to a friend of the city council for like sexual harassment thing, and that person was paid like $900,000 and nobody ever used it. Like it was, we got a few
cornucopia
cooking out here.
Yeah, it was not only not used, but the people in charge of it displayed fake numbers saying that it was used.
And it was the female city council member who gave it to her best friend.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, so we got that going.
I see. Okay.
It's good there's no paper trail.
Yeah.
Racism is perpetuated by those who benefit from it. Anti-black racism.
Oh, like Charles Blow? Charles Blow makes a living whining about racism. So he makes a living off it.
Wow.
Okay.
It's deep.
Yeah, heavy.
I love it. Anti-black racism benefits those whose appearances are least black. White supremacy benefits those who are white or those who are white adjacent.
Well, to be fair,
culture, and
amongst the
effect.
white community, we invert it because we praise the tan.
Yeah, nobody wants to be
amongst our
pasty.
community. Yeah, Ed Sheeran is not held in high regard in the white supremacists.
He had to find a talent.
That's right. Better be able to strum that guitar, boy. Come on, Ginger, play. Dance. Yeah, but Whitey, we spray ourselves to get tan, and that's our hierarchy.
What does that say?
And then they flip the script the other direction.
During the summer of protest in 2020, you would have thought that Martinez stood in solidarity with black people and black lives. She filed a motion to reduce funding to the Los Angeles Police Department to defund the police.
Yeah.
She issued a tweet
That
endorsing
hurts.
the policy.
That hurts black people.
But that was okay. I was confused if that was supposed to be a good thing or a bad thing.
You think defunding the police is standing in some sort of unity with the black community, except for the black community is disproportionately harmed by the lack of policing in the neighborhoods they live in. So they end up getting punished. Neither here nor there, by the way, when you're making these ideas. But okay.
She supported an end to racism in public, but perpetuated it in private.
Aha.
Wow.
Even in part of the recording.
I'm the exact opposite. Privately, I'm pretty cool.
Yeah. You keep it close to the vest.
That's right.
The unfortunate reality is that anti-black white supremacy is not confined to white people or to Republicans, even though they court it and coddle it.
Deep.
Pretty broad.
Yeah.
Martinez is a Democrat in an overwhelmingly Democratic city. The fallacy is to believe that every person in every community that has been oppressed by white supremacy will reject it. That's simply not true. For some see oppression as having a perch. You must be elevated to perform it. In that way, being in a position to oppress becomes aspirational. Being anti-black and being able to skirt most anti-blackness becomes a sorting device. It's an achievement.
Do you ever met anyone who aspires to oppress?
Not personally.
No,
Like,
no one I know.
There's versions of it,
Like Putin.
There's I would like to pay people the least amount possible, and I would like their lunch breaks to be as short as possible. But I'm not trying to oppress them. It's more for me.
According to,
you know what I mean?
Not trying to subjugate
The goal
them.
is not their misery. The goal
according
is,
to
Right.
Charles Blow's very last sentence in this op-ed, It is.
This is why Wahlberg left, by the way. These idiots are in charge, and he's like, I'm out of here.
Making oppression aspirational is most American.
That's the plan. Okay. All right. What year is it? Who's listening to this guy? What's going on?
That's the thing. It's like both can be true. Both have been true throughout history. Why do we have to pick a side? Yes, this country has made some horrific mistakes. Other countries have made horrific mistakes. We learn from them. We don't do that again. We move on. We try to make the place better. But to jump on saying this place completely sucks or number one when we're clearly not in a lot of things, why can't it be both?
I think it's the motivation that guys like Charles Blow screw up all the time, which is they think if something bad happens to a certain group, it's because the other group doesn't like that group. That's the misnomer here, that these people are trying to hurt people that don't look like them. Again, how could you live in Los Angeles County and be scared of those who look different than you? But it's I have said many times into this microphone, the more it goes away, the more the rhetoric gets ratcheted up big time. But who is the reader for this article? It's not the black woman in the inner city. She's got problems, you know. It's the middle-aged white woman who's sitting around reading this. Like, who is reading this and kind of nodding their head?
It's quasi-intellectual, but it's not backed up by a lot of data or facts or
and then also, isn't it
opinions?
It's that kind. You know what it is? If you grow up around the sort of hippie class, they think that big business is evil. Big business is trying to make money. And the way big business works is, you know, Ford comes out with a Pinto. They find out the Pinto can catch on fire. And then they crunch the numbers. They go, how much would it cost to recall 7 million Pintos versus settle up 8 lawsuits where families burned in Pintos? And they go, well, it's cheaper to settle up the lawsuits, scrap the recall. But that doesn't mean they're angry at people who drive Pintos, or if they had a magic wand, they would say, nobody dies in a Pinto. But they're a business. So they go this versus that. And that's an extreme example. But big businesses are in the business of making money. Stop grafting on evil personalities to them. That's what Charles Blow does. He does this evil personality thing to Americans. Americans want to get along, make money, you know, enjoy vacation. They're grafting this thing on that doesn't exist. It's an interesting window into where we're at. All right, Ethan Wayne, John Wayne's son, is going to come in here, tell us some old stories about back in the day, and also talk about grit.
All right,
good.
Your favorite.
We'll do that right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Hey, Adam. Just had a thought. Shouldn't it be Harry Hay?
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Yeah, Harry Hay, the leader of the modern gay movement, should be Harry Hay. Ethan Wayne is here, son of the Duke, John Wayne, who was...
I thought you were going to say son of, but then you changed your mind.
Oh, man, when I grew up, John Wayne, he was weird to have sort of what we thought of as the ultimate man as your father. My dad, Jim Carolla, is quite a bit off that pace. But I mean, just remember growing up and to be like, John Wayne, he's 6 foot tall. I was like, there's just all this weird stuff about
lore,
man and macho and Western and everything.
USC football player.
That's right.
Maybe the most famous USC football player ever.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. Not for playing football, of course.
Yeah, there's OJ, but for different reasons.
Famous, infamous.
Almost choked.
Yeah.
Brought you a bottle of bourbon.
Oh, nice.
All right. This is Duke bourbon.
Duke bourbon.
Button.
And we'll just leave it at that.
That was my gay porn name for many years. Oh, Duke Bourbon. I shall be enjoying some of this tonight.
Delicious.
So, Ethan, see, Dad died in 79.
79.
And you were, I don't know, 16, 17 at the time?
Yeah, 17.
So you got some good years in, but also probably pretty devastating for you at that age.
Yeah. Looking back now at 60, looking back, you go, wow, that was, it was difficult because, gosh, where do you start? Right after I was born, my dad left the Valley and moved down to Newport Beach, which was a small town, and ended up being a great move for me. Total freedom, no sort of celebrity life around us down there. Yeah, we spent 3 months on location and then, 3 months on the boat and then 3 months at home. But it wasn't, there was no Hollywood in our life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. I think Dr. Druce, I don't know if it was Newport. I'm not sure where he spent his summers.
Well, I can say that my in-laws have a place on Balboa, and they love trolling. They have a little boat, and every time we go around the island, in-law, Dad, loves point, John Wayne's house right there. It's right across from Balboa, or at least one of his houses, I assume.
It's where he lived. There was a single-story rancher back in the day, and it was right on the point there. And
it's beautiful.
Newport was a place that not a lot of people lived full-time, People from up here, Pasadena, they had a summer cottage down there, and they'd come hang out.
I think that's kind of what Drew did. But also in keeping with the theme of the show, California as it was and as it is, there was just kind of a freedom.
Is there a theme?
Kind of, that's the
Nobody
theme.
told me when I came in.
That's today's theme we've decided.
I could have prepared.
It's just, you did what you wanted to do. It wasn't so crazy regulated. Like if you wanted to go to the beach and have a beer and smoke a cigarette, then you did. It wasn't like people pouring down on you, telling you what you can and can't do constantly.
I think when my dad moved out of the Valley, he started in Hollywood in the 20s, right? Went to school here, started his career, I think 1929, he went to Fox Studios. So he's seeing LA, in the 20s. So there's no traffic, there's a couple nice places, there's an industry there that's creating some financial benefits to the community, so there's probably nice places to eat and things to do, but it's open. And there's, plenty of space, and you go to the beach, or, Newport was that way when we moved down there. So I grew up in a place that had cool places to eat, but you never had to wait in line. There was always a place to park. And now it's gotten to the point where it's kind of an extension of LA. Mm-hmm. And it's just got it's got a little bit more of an energy that's, people are in your way rather than you're not going, hey, Adam, you're like, Adam, could you out of the way so I can go?
Did you go to the set a lot? Did you go to location a lot when you were younger?
Yeah, all the time. Because he was older, and we just we did a museum in Fort Worth, and in going through that process, we uncovered some like an unfinished biography. And in the biography, the interviewer asks him, "Why do you keep the kid with you? Why do you pull him out of school and keep the kid with you?" And he said, "Because boys go away when they're teenagers, and they don't come back till they're in their 30s. And I won't be here for Ethan when he comes back." So,
interesting.
So he took me with him, which was great for me because I loved it.
And where would you guys go? Like, what are some of the films you were on?
Well, really every film from the day I was born till he died. Usually Durango, Mexico was like the main hub. So they had a little western town built that they could manipulate, and they had a railroad spur down there, and Durango's got all kinds of topography around it, and it was a place that they used. But True Grit was in Mammoth and in Colorado. Cowboys was in New Mexico.
True Grit was in Mammoth?
Well, when they do that hot springs, that beautiful hot springs where he has the shootout with Robert Duvall. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a very famous spot up there in Mammoth.
Looking at pictures,
it's called Hot Creek.
7.
Wow. Pretty adorable.
Yeah.
Jesus, what a life! But I'm sure
he was huge, right? He was 6'4".
Was he 6'4"?
260, 265.
He was that big.
Yeah. And enormous, enormous hands, enormous wrists.
Oh, was he an
forearms.
offensive lineman in
Or
UFC?
yeah, it was offense, right? Tackle or something.
Those were the days where
Yeah,
people
he's a tackle.
appreciated a forearm, a nice muscular forearm.
Is that my dog?
Yeah, it's good.
He might bark until he gets back in
okay.
here.
I'll let him in.
If you're going to play, if you're going to play at that level, offensive line.
But don't
you're
look
gonna
at me
be big.
disparagingly when I tell you how big he was, because my mother's tiny. She's 5 feet.
Well, you're good size.
95 pounds, but she's from Peru.
And you started doing stunt work early, like reading down here on the Blues Brothers and
the Blues
films
Brothers.
like that. How'd that come about?
Well, obviously, I grew up on sets with my dad and some of the guys. There was a guy named Gary McClarty who was a famous stuntman, and he would take me. I rode horses with my dad, but my passion was motorized stuff. So I was crazy for motorcycles, and my dad wasn't really into it. So I'd scavenge and put things together and race around. Anyway, Gary McClarty, I tried to track him down, and he said, "No, I'm not in town. I'm in Chicago." He said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 17. He goes, "Do you want to come work for me?" And my dad died in June of my junior year in high school. So there's a couple months leading up to it that I wasn't in school. And without my father's involvement in my life, I was a little bit rudderless. When he was involved in my life, I was focused. Things were interesting. If I was getting tutored on the set, they'd explain why you're learning things and attach it to things that are interesting to me. I didn't have that in high school. I didn't have a lot of interesting subjects. So when he said, "Would you like to come work for me?" I grew up around stunt guys, wranglers. I sort of knew what was happening. I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he took me back on the Blues Brothers.
That was the movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie
a lot of
so
stunts.
much.
Great movie. Yeah, and I was really, young. I think back, I look at my niece and nephew when they're 17, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I left home and I went to work.
My son's not going to have his driver's
and I had,
license on his
an
17th
apartment,
birthday, much less doing stunts. Yeah, that movie, for a musical and a comedy, had more stunts in it than any other musical and or comedies ever had in it.
I buy it.
I love that
There's a
movie.
record for
And
number of cars
as a
wrecked.
part of the cast and crew, you're on a big production like that they're spending a lot of money on, and you make a lot of money, even if you're just getting paid a daily rate. That's where I got my SAG card. It was on the Blues Brothers.
And I think one of the subjects we're going to get into was grit. And I know it's a passion of yours, and I know that you got a podcast called John Wayne Gritcast, and you can listen to it wherever you listen to finer podcasts. What's the theme? Who do you talk to? What are the grit-related thoughts?
It started as a sort of project of trying to capture stories that were going away. People are dying that had this personal interaction with him. So we started interviewing them, and it's kind of grown out of that. We just had a long discussion about it because it's sort of crossing over into my interests. So at what point do we separate that? At what point doesn't it work for John Wayne anymore? Because we're getting through everybody that we can find that knew him.
And now we're discussing grit, or
grit,
or anything else.
Yeah, we find people who we think share his values, self-reliance, grit, honesty, ruggedness.
Hollywood's come a long way since your dad in terms of what actors are out front of, in terms of what they espouse and what they stand behind.
Yeah.
And it's really taken a weird turn. But let's try to figure out how this is measured, because back in the day, all right, I'll give you an example. If you go to Good Neighbor, the breakfast joint I enjoy over here in the Studio City area, and you look up, you go to any of these old diners, all these old places, and they have the old black and white pictures of all the starlets and actors. 86% of them are smoking in the picture. Mm-hmm. Even the kids, they got a butt in their hand, and I would sit there looking around, going, I don't think 86% of these people smoked. I think many of them didn't smoke, and someone handed them a cigarette for the photo.
Sure.
And so they were trying to push something forward. And then back in the day, it was like, oh, this guy's hard drinking. hard loving, fighter, smokes, drinks his bourbon, beds his women, and he'll let his fist do the talking, man. Don't fuck with that guy. And then that was considered, he's a leading man. Good. Sure. This is a good thing. Like, we didn't go, he's gay, and he's basically kind of a bookworm. He stays at home and reads a lot. There was a mystique, right? Okay. So we went from that to this guy's down with the cause. He's marching with the LGBT. He's down with the trans community. He's a big proponent of global warming or whatever. How did we, because now that's the exact opposite of what we were initially talking about. How did it swing to this point? And again, a lot of it is posturing and posing and stuff because the guys are flying. A lot of it is posing. They're flying private.
But like you
said, not that down with the cause.
And a lot of it is false.
But like you said,
why? How did it get there? The guy was smoking was posing too because he didn't smoke. Right. Why?
Well, I can tell you, my father smoked and he chewed tobacco and he drank, and it didn't do him any good. Because if you look at him at 72, he was looking a little rough.
I still would have made out with him.
I have a theory to answer your question, and then maybe you can speak to it from your own experience, but it feels like, and this is not the only factor, but when Marlon Brando sent up Saatchi Littlefeather, I totally get the name wrong every time, to accept his Oscar for The Godfather.
You're working Littlefeather into this, really?
Well, I think there was a moment where that sort of archetype of the leading man, because Brando was the biggest star in the world, or certainly one of them at that point, and took a turn for a little more sensitive and a little less bravado. I mean, so Marlon was like a thinking man's actor, right? And so I wonder if that was a bit of a fulcrum point.
That could have been the beginning.
Because that was,
that was kind of the beginning of using that show as a platform to discuss something else.
But what do you see, whether it's the cigarette or sending the Indian up to accept your award, you're pushing something out there. You're saying, here's how I want you to think of me. And gone were the days of the brawling and the drinking and the smoking. Now we're pushing this other thing. And now we've gone way off the rails in terms of what people want. I mean, could you imagine an A-list leading man saying, climate change? Fuck that. I'm not down with that cause. I mean, then no more work. Right? So, or I'm not down with the gay, I'm against gay marriage. Boom. Okay, get that clip.
I got that.
The point is that's death. Now, that's a version of them going, I'm a leading man in the 60s. Oh, I happen to be gay. Like that, it would be the same end for their career.
Right, but don't you think it follows the culture? Like we have civil rights movement, then second wave feminism or women's liberation, as it was called, and that opened everything up.
But is it following it, or is it kind of leading it or pushing it? You know?
But maybe we give influencers too much credit for doing the influencing and not seeing one step ahead and jumping on board. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I just found that it's interesting that the persona off camera needed to be maintained, and the old persona was the opposite. You need to drive a Corvette, not a fuel efficient car. You need to smoke, you need to fight, you need to brawl, you need to love women, and it was all the opposite of everything we hate now. Yes.
Well, let me just add to the Brando thing real quick. Remember, she went up there to protest, or on his behalf, to protest how the Native Americans were treated in film history, which I imagine the subtext of that was a lot of John Wayne type movies. And even later in the broadcast, Clint Eastwood came up and kind of, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he kind of pushed back a little bit. And there was a real cultural schism there.
I don't think many people in the audience were happy with Brando's actions or Littlefeather either that night. I can tell you that, when my father's movie companies would come into an environment at that time, it was a boon for that environment, financially, medically, whatever. They sort of lived under that umbrella of, hey, we're going to leave things better than we found them. So if they didn't have water, they'd run a pipeline from a well down to where the people could get it. If there was medical attention, they'd need it. They worked everybody, they paid them, and they fed them. So the relationships that I saw between John Ford and John Wayne and the local communities of Native Americans that they worked with, it was really a positive As times changed and productions got bigger or different, maybe people didn't have such a tight relationship with the community, or they didn't leave things as nice as they did. But back in the day, they had a great relationship, and John Ford was made an honorary Navajo.
Oh, it was.
And we still fund, we fund a lot of cancer research, education, awareness, and support. And John Wayne Cancer Foundation still funds Native American research. In fact, we have a new grant that's really interesting because my father died of stomach cancer, and this is a study that's looking at stomach cancer in the Navajo people, and it's more prevalent there than it is anywhere else. And so we're actually finding a Navajo PhD who's doing the work. Kind of cool.
So talk about not posing. I mean, he was going into the community, lifting the community.
It was different back then.
No.
You know what? You bring up something really interesting, Adam. The smoking in film, right? So you were talking about it in a little different way, but I watch films now, and it drives me crazy because everybody smokes in every scene.
In every scene now?
Have you noticed that? Yeah.
No, I thought they were taking them.
Oh,
well,
no.
they give you warnings
You do
about.
get a warning.
You get a warning that people are going to smoke.
They smoke through all the latest films. I mean,
Really?
it's distracting to me from the story because they're all smoking so much. And I'm like, it's got to be some money coming in from somewhere.
You're talking about Marvel? You can't.
I watched The Hammer last night. I got to tell you, it's actually one of my. I love that movie. It's a
Oh,
great movie.
really?
Yeah, I think it's terrific, and I watched it again last night.
They've got a. Oh, well, thanks. It got a. That movie, every once in a while, someone tweets me, why was this movie rated R? That's what they say. The thing I always think it's interesting is you rate a movie R, and then you have to justify your rating. You don't go R, you go rated R 4. Language, 2 F-bombs, all told, and violence.
Because boxing?
It's inherent. It's inherent in the boxing.
Amateur.
A lot of people get punched in this movie.
Amateur boxing. But you have to justify your R.
The violence.
So you do it at an Olympic sport that is televised throughout the world at prime time when boxing takes place in the Summer Olympics. But it was violence. It was one of their
I'd like
Rs.
to look up the rating on Ali and see if they say the same thing.
I don't. The ratings board is you want to talk about bizarre cabal of people that you had no access to, and I think there was a
You've seen the documentary.
Rate this,
No,
right?
no, this film is not yet rated by Kirby Dick, and it's great.
Yeah. It's a. If you want to fight it,
good luck.
It's like punching at ghosts.
Good luck. And then it's how you saw The Hammer. Does that feel like an R-rated film to you?
No, it doesn't. But I told the family to watch Captain Ron, and I forgot that there was a little nudity in the shower in one of those scenes.
What are you going to do?
Call on that.
What was your dad's thought on swearing and all that stuff?
You know,
Body stuff.
He appreciated the art of filmmaking, right? And I remember when Midnight Cowboy came out, it's at the end of his career. Things are changing in the movie business. Money's taking over from the old guys who ran the studios. And he just thought, if you have to show like a piece of liver splatting out, or, if you show a breast and then that film makes money, then you're going to have to show 2 breasts in the next, or, more blood coming out. So I think he sort of found a groove that I think he was very comfortable in. And obviously it's a groove that still means a lot to a lot of people because they keep watching those films over and over and they keep sharing it from generation to generation. So I think he was disappointed that he saw that coming. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
Well, he'd be happy that all the westerns have had a renaissance. That there's so many great westerns have come back. I think there was a time, certainly in the 80s, where just like we thought they were never going to make another western. It was all going to be Logan's Run Part 3. Hammer's rated R for brief language.
Oh, how nice.
The 2 F-bombs.
Brief language.
That second F-bomb.
I think it was the hairy ass
Yeah.
story that you were telling. I can't remember what the line was, but
I have a question real quick.
Yeah, I can tell you what the line is.
Speaking of which, Ethan surprised us with sorry to put you on the spot, but what are some movies your dad loved that we would never think the great John Wayne, tough
I can
guy?
tell you what movie drove him crazy.
Oh, please.
Because at his house, he had a den and had a screen that came down. We had the old projectors behind the bookshelf. And so he'd be watching everything that came out. I'm going to digress for a minute because I was going to Midnight Cowboy when you were talking about films. He talked about Midnight Cowboy. He said it was a hell of a performance. Those guys did a great job, but I don't want to take my daughter to see it. And I think that's kind of what he was thinking about.
Fair.
So now where were we?
What movie drove him crazy?
So he'd watch all the new stuff that came out, and I would be like, Dad, can we watch Evel Knievel again? Like, can you get Evel Knievel, the George Hamilton one?
Oh, not Viva Knievel that had Evel Knievel in it, the George Hamilton one.
The George Hamilton one.
Yeah, check it out,
as
people.
As a young guy, I watched that probably 100 times.
As a motorcycle guy, you love that.
Yeah, I loved it. It was awesome. And
wait, what movie did he hate? Evel Knievel?
My gosh, I don't know. I don't know what movie he hated.
But that's the one that drove
I
him
hate
crazy.
Little Miss Sunshine. Now it's your dad's turn.
I do remember my little sister, who's 4 years younger than me to the day. We were watching The Cowboys. So I was 10, she was 6. We're all sitting in the same room, sitting on 2 different couches. And at the end, when Bruce Dern kills John Wayne, my little sister lost her mind. Oh, no. And I remember he stopped the film and he picked her up and held her and spent a few minutes talking to her and calming her down. And then they turned the movie back on and finished it.
That's what happened with Baron Trump and Kathy Griffin.
Saw the head.
Same difference.
Maybe something a little more general. Like, was there a genre? Like, did he love the old classic musicals, or was there any? Or obviously, he was a horror guy.
Yeah, we found a. He died when I was 17, so all my memories are, a 10-year-old trying to remember 50 years ago. But I did find a card that he'd filled out for the Academy with this top 5 actors and actresses in top 5 films. And Man Called Horse was on there. And boy, I don't know, Stephanie's out there. She can look it up. I can't remember what the other ones were.
It's a great artifact, though.
But yeah, it's terrific. And, when my father died, I was 17. Before I drove him to UCLA. He was in the back of the station wagon. He never came out, and the executors locked up. I lived with my dad. My mom had moved out. My sister spent more time over there. The executors had locked the house down, and so I never saw inside there again until one day they let us go in with 10 stickers to pick out some stuff. But in 2003, my oldest brother, Michael, died, and he really worked closely with my father. He produced some of his films. He ran our family business from the day my father died till the day he died in 2003. He was a great guy. But when I took over, I noticed that we had a bunch of stuff in storage in one of those Indiana Jones lockers, with all the wooden vaults.
Crates,
and so we went up there and looked, and once I looked in there, I realized it was everything from the house, my room, his room, everything. Wow. Kind of interesting.
I guess I understand that you were young, you were a kid, and he couldn't just say, like, yeah, go for it, Ethan, you're in charge now. But did you feel marginalized, kind of pushed out? I mean, you had to go put stickers on a couple things and get out of the way?
Very strange. My dad was he was a loving father, and he had a lot going on in his life, but he made sure that you were, I always felt like he took care of me, like he had my back. When I was in school, he did my schoolwork with me. If there were issues, he was the guy who was there. So when he died suddenly, and then everything that happens after a celebrity dies comes into play.
And the suits take over.
That wasn't part of my life as a little guy growing up. That was a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm going to soften your landing a little here.
Okay, here we go.
When my dad dies, if somebody handed me 10 stickers, I'd give them back 11. Yeah. I'd be like, I'm not fucking going in there. No. What do I need a pair of slippers for?
You look back at the things that people picked, it's just an odd day.
Yeah, pre-eBay, by the way, so all bets were off. All right, let me tell you about Good Rancher. Store-bought meat can mean scary bacteria and ghoulish prices. Recently, 44 tons of meat was recalled. I've probably heard that story. Trade in the spooky store-bought meat for peace of mind with Good Ranchers. They deliver America's best meat and seafood year-round. Their Oktoberfest special just got better. Up to 4 pounds of meat free Order any box and get over 2 pounds of their. It's better than organic chicken and chicken breast for free. And if the order is over $300, you'll also get 2 pounds of Wagyu ground beef too. Head to goodranchers.com/Adam to claim your special October feast of 4 free pounds of meat today. It is Good Ranchers. This is good protein, right, Dawson?
Good Ranchers lets you save $25 on every box and lock in your price when you subscribe. Put an end to your meat buying nightmare by visiting goodranchers.com/Adam to get over 4 pounds of high-quality beef and chicken. The real monster isn't under your bed. It's in your fridge. Take control over your food with an October feast from Good Ranchers, America's American meat delivered.
Ethan, the line you were thinking about from The Hammer, about having a hairy ass.
It's a difficult line, and you did a great job with it.
I nailed it. Well, it's easier when you write it, but Ozzy was explaining to the girl I was trying to ask out on a date that I'd just been dumped on Wednesday before, and then we were walking out to the truck, and I said, when I'm trying to pick up a girl, don't tell her I got dumped. And he said, but it's true. And I said, yeah, it's also true that I have a hairy ass, but I don't weave it into every conversation. Yeah. That was the line.
It's a good point.
Although I didn't like it later because I was like, I said hairy ass and weave, and then maybe you'd think I was weaving my hairy ass.
I think most of us figured it out.
I should have said work it into every conversation.
Did you know that actor before, or did you cast him?
Did you know that actor before, Adam?
Oswaldo Castillo, I worked construction with for 20 years before that role came about.
This was his acting debut.
He was great.
Maybe 17, 18. I probably met Ozzy in the early 90s and started working with him, and then shot that, 06, 07. All right, let me give a plug out for you, Ethan. The exhibit, the John Wayne, An American Experience, or I should say John Wayne, An American Experience, open 7 days a week in Fort Worth, Texas. And if you want to check out the pod, you can find John Wayne Gritcast wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And also the Instagram at Traveling with Finn, which I'm guessing is that big lab.
That's mine.
That's yours.
Yeah, we're John Wayne Official.
John Wayne Official is where you go. Ethan Wayne, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll take a quick break, come back with the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking, viral, weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden. Kamala. Meet news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
It's political ad campaign season, and there's all kinds. We've seen, the props and the say yes and the say no, and this candidate's great and this candidate's the worst. That's the season we're in. But
you mentioned props. How long have guns been making an appearance in the political ads? Because it feels like
you're talking about propositions.
As props.
I know she's at props. May think of.
I thought you meant like holding an AR-15, being like vote
that
for
is
me.
exactly what I mean.
That's what he means.
That feels like that came in a couple of cycles ago, and now it's ubiquitous.
Yes, I think you're right about that.
And it seems mostly like chicks shooting guns.
There is a lot of that.
Well, remember, Sarah Palin probably started that off in the hot bikini shot with the gun.
Oh, really?
Unless I'm thinking of the porn version. I thought that was a real picture.
Could be thinking.
She never said I can see Russia from my house, so you never know. But didn't she have like a hot American flag bikini, and then she posed with a gun, and that was like a whole thing?
I don't know.
Or is this a fever dream I had one day? Well, Ben will show us.
I interrupt your story.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because there is a new candidate who's making all kinds of waves. Mike Itkis, a Manhattan congressional candidate, he released a full-on sex tape starring himself.
All right.
And it has earned him droves of attention. He's the liberal independent candidate. I'm only showing you a picture of him and then I can't remember her name, but I might have it written. Oh, Nicole Sage, who's a porn star, with their clothes on. I watched it. have to go to Pornhub. 13 minutes of that dude screwing that girl. Full on 13-minute porno.
Is that the same girl?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing what we can do with
The
makeup.
Duke would not abide.
No, the Duke would not abide. He's running for New York's 12th congressional district seat, facing some tough odds to beat the incumbent, Jerry Nadler. But let me tell you about this guy.
Why is Jerry Nadler still doing things?
This is his competition.
Oh, my God.
So he's he wants to make America more sex positive. And that he's sort of putting his balls where his mouth
fit on
are.
a hat.
His platform supports abortion rights, gun control, and not having to pay child support without prior agreement. So he has a lot of passions. And this video is called the Bucket List Bonanza. Sounds like something he's always wanted to do. Great. He said he did it as a conversation piece. And again, there's really nothing from this video that I can put up.
All right.
It's full out.
Did one
full glitz.
And he shot this as the campaign commercial. It wasn't.
Yeah, she gets on at the beginning and says, like, this is my name. I wasn't coerced into doing this. I know who I'm doing. This is Mike Itkes. And does the whole vibe.
So
and then
this isn't archival footage that he's repurposing.
This is for the campaign.
Wow.
And I mean, everything comes off. You could tell. You know, it's like for a lot of people's weddings, they'll take a couple of dance classes for their big. I feel like he may have gotten some pointers because he does a couple of different like.
How's he look nude?
White.
Nadler's not getting any votes if he goes and mounts a chick. That much I can tell you.
He just looks like a dude. I don't.
You guys remember when Nadler was 450 pounds?
No.
Was he the guy that lost all that weight?
He had lap band surgery or something. He was a limp back like in the 90s, and now he got the lap band thing, which I will say this, losing 20 pounds makes everyone look better. Losing 220 pounds somehow doesn't help. And I don't know what it is. You think it would just work that much better than the 20 pounds?
Deflated balloon.
There's something, but he used to be a load.
Rotund?
I guess he must have had that surgery. He had the rotund thing where he had the pants pulled up real high, like Chris Christie does.
He was bigger than Chris Christie.
Oh yeah, where the panice pushes out below the belt, where you don't want your belt to essentially become a river in the bottom of a canyon.
Right.
You know what I mean? You want it to be on the outer
Indention.
edge, not. You shouldn't have it sloping down above it and below it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if
the Sarah Palin bikini was a funnier die
that wasn't
parody.
real?
See?
There's no picture ever of her in that bikini with a gun. Okay, this is the Mandela effect.
Yeah, she did it for the Funny or Die thing, though.
It was her. I
did
see.
do it.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
okay.
It was her. So you can look for that, search that on your own, Bucket List Bonanza. It is not on YouTube. You are going to have to go to a porn site because it is the whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
and did he do any of that stuff because then as a politician, at some point, you got to go, as a father, as a husband, as a leader in this community. I mean, he couldn't have given that speech after the porn, right?
No, he's like an army, like a former army security guy. He doesn't talk about the platform while he's coming. It just kind of is what it is. And he really, really gives it to her.
Wow.
All right.
And I'm guessing she's got his vote, right? I mean, or is she
What a
just a
betrayal.
gun for hire?
She could be a gun for hire. Okay. So, yeah, seek that out if you'd like. So Kanye West might be off Twitter, but you can't keep him off Parler because he bought it.
What?
Yeah.
Did I learn Parler was still around?
Yeah. The conservative social media platform announced that it has entered into an agreement in principle to sell Parler to Kanye. He was locked out of Twitter last week for the anti-Semitic posts, which he's continued to bring up on different interviews. I don't know if you watched that clip from Drink Champs, but he continues to go on off the rails about it. Details of the deal have not been disclosed, but it's expected to close by the end of the year. And this is kind of a fun fact. You're thinking like, okay, maybe, but how do we get from Kanye to Parler? Parler CEO George Farmer is the husband of Candace Owens. And now he's kind of buddy-buddy with Candace Owens.
Oh, is he English?
I don't
George
know.
Farmer?
Don't know.
I think I've met him before. Wow. You know, when I was doing that race last weekend, there was a funky guy and not the usual crew that I see at these races. And he was driving something insane, which he was driving a VW Bug, which you never see. I've seen one other time. There were a couple.
Like souped up?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't
Not the
souped up.
ones that my friends drove in college?
No, but as souped up as you can make a VW Bug, I think you'll see pictures of Steve Smith and his VW Bug out there. As much as you can possibly soup up a VW Bug, it can still not be competitive in this run group. But once in a while, you'll see the guys out there, and they're like, fuck it, I'm running my VW Bug. And he was out there running, and nice, but, you know, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds a lap off, which is, if you're 5 seconds, you're falling way off. But if you're 15, there's problems. But he's going as fast as you can go in a VW Bug. And he's clearly a quirky dude. And he comes up and starts talking to me. And he tells me he's Kanye's lead design guy. Right? Yeezy, like lead whatever.
Shoes?
And then he says, yeah, and I talk to Kanye all the time.
Well, there you go.
I said, you do? He goes, yeah. He took a picture of the both of us, and he sent it to Kanye, and Kanye sort of wrote back, hey, there you are at the track.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even closer to how that even happened.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Never seen the guy at any of these races ever, but he just showed up with this VW Bug, this crazy Bug. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cute.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
It's
Herbie?
the fastest you can make a VW Bug. That's what I will say about it.
James Corden, boy, is he lucky for these fast news cycles.
Did he write something? No, that's him.
Oh, we're looking at
yeah. That's what he say, Chris? Sorry, it's him going through the corkscrew at.
Yeah, at Velocity, and he is the lead designer, I believe, of Donda and Yeezy.
Oh.
He works at Donda, Yeezy, New Balance, Reebok, Nike, Adidas
Damn.
Design, VW, Porsche, Outlaw, and Lunatic. That's his Instagram bio.
So weird hodgepodge of quiet, successful guys out there for the most part. Like most guys, they all had a business and sold it, made a ton of money, or they own a winery or something. It's a group of successful guys who want to do this stuff, but they can afford it.
Wow.
So, yeah, fun guy.
Okay. Well, James Corden was publicly banned from a chain of high-end restaurants in New York City and then publicly welcomed back, all in the span of like a few hours. Chef and restaurateur Keith McNally posted on Instagram on Monday that 2 incidents in which Corden was exceedingly rude to the waitstaff at his restaurant Balthazar. McNally dubbed Corden a tiny cretin of a man and the most abusive customer to my Balthazar servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago.
What did I say about dancing?
I
And
know. That's
not
why I brought
only
it
just
up.
him breaking into dance all the time, but
he sings in cars.
Yes, the big karaoke dancing, but it's not just that. The dancing, like you got Ellen, you got Bill Cosby, and now we got James Corden over here. They're always assholes because this is the thing, like, if I go to a wedding, someone goes like, let's dance. I might dance, but I probably go like, no, but I'm also like, I don't need to advertise this thing to people to make them. It's the gregariousness too. It's like, oh, I mean, if you guys
quiet evil.
Go back and watch Rosie's syndicated talk show from the early 90s and see a completely different human being.
Slingshot koosh balls.
It's completely, well, what was that human being? That human being was the one she wanted us to see because she was suppressing the real Rosie, which she's now let fly.
Sure. So I'll give you the gist of the complaints. So the first incident was Corden allegedly found a hair in his food and threatened to write bad reviews if they didn't keep comping his drinks. The second incident happened when he was...
Can I say this? whether it's getting thrown off of a commercial flight or thrown out of a restaurant, or it's like, what must you have to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've been in 2 billion restaurants. The most I've ever gotten into is like, we did order the drink a half hour ago. Could you bring it around? And they just go, yeah, I'll bring it around. Or I want a lemon, not a lime. But what is that?
Yeah. You really got to work at it.
Yeah, you really got to go after this again and again. I get the impression in multiple instances.
Well, and I'm going to tell you the other incident, but I'm glad you brought up airplanes. Hold on to that because there's another great story. But the second incident, he and his wife went there for brunch and she ordered an egg yolk omelet, which I'm sure Vinny would fucking love, and salad. But they found...
Egg yolk omelet?
Egg yolk omelet.
Didn't know that was a thing.
But she found a little spot of white in it. Yeah. So it wasn't totally egg yolk.
Oh,
so they sent it back.
Yeah.
The server brought it back with potatoes instead of a salad.
Oh my God.
And Corden allegedly started saying, like, you're bad at your job. What do I have to go back there and cook it myself? And made a big stink.
Also, when you're super recognizable, don't you want to tamp
Play
that
it
stuff
down.
down?
Pro.
Yes.
So to sort of pacify him, they offered him 2 promotional champagne glasses from the restaurant and profusely apologized. And that's when Keith, who owns the restaurant, was like, enough. Let me tell you about this guy. So once the news picked this up, apparently Corden called him directly, profusely apologizing, and then
fat guy wants a restaurant.
Keith
Gotta get those
McNally
egg yolks.
put back up there. He's welcome back now. He apologized.
Called him a cretin.
Yeah. But this is so it's kind of setting the table. Now this is unconfirmed, but meanwhile the story.
Can I say this?
Yes.
I feel like making an egg white omelet is a lot easier than an egg yolk omelet because I could separate the yolk more easier than I could not having a trace of white in my yolk. That's a tall order.
Yeah.
By the way, who wants that?
I mean, then don't put it on the menu because I've been to Pastis, one of his restaurants. It's a lot of work.
All right.
But you're right. So there's this website, Pop Bitch, and it tells the story about Corden that is, again, unconfirmed, but pretty funny. And somebody who posted it on Twitter.
I did tell you a year ago on this show that I was sitting with a bunch of Hollywood writer types and folks that had lived in the late night world and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, you don't know that? Oh, that guy's an asswipe. Like they were telling me, which you go, like you do this thing where you go, well, that's just 8 guys.
Yeah.
It's like, does anyone ever say that about Fonzie or Bryan Cranston or Phil Rosenthal?
Never.
Nobody would
Consensus is consensus, good and bad.
Yeah, so this is a perfect example of the story I'm going to tell you. If it's even possible that it could have been him, it might have happened. So this story's great. Somebody wrote half hour, it's like a blind item type thing, but half hour into a New York to London flight, passengers in business class notice a woman with a crying baby being brought through the curtains by a flight attendant. They looked on in mild horror as they saw the attendant direct her to an empty seat next to James Corden. Expecting a huge celebrity hissy fit, Corden's cabin mate were impressed to see that he didn't say a word or make any sort of complaint. He simply put on a pair of noise-canceling headphones, pulled his eye mask over his eyes, and turned away from her to sleep. Now, the punchline is...
Someone's doing some work.
When it was finally time to get off the plane, the woman asked him to get the bags from overhead, to get her bag, completely ignored her. And then she said something to the effect of, Jesus Christ, could you at least hold the baby while I do it? It was his baby. That was his wife.
Calls coming from inside the house.
So she's in coach. She's put in first class next to him. He puts his noise-canceling headphones on and his eye mask, goes to sleep for the duration, and then ignores her as she's trying to get the bags, allegedly. Confirmed.
I'm trying to think, who
knows?
Who is actually a nice person who pedals that nice person bike pretty hard and pushes it out? Like Howie Mandel is kind of that guy. He is a exquisitely nice guy.
But how hard does he work to push it?
I don't think it. I mean, it's pretty organic and pretty natural. But he's and I'm not saying it's a false attitude. I'm just saying they're guys like Harlan Williams, super nice, and then they come across that way.
Right.
So, but when you see the saccharine sweet really shoving it out there, that's when you gotta get a little suspicious, you know? I mean, like, Bryan Cranston's a super nice guy, but he just kind of comes across as who he is.
What about someone like Shaq, who's always paying for people's stuff and paying for the restaurant, and somebody's putting their ring on layaway, he hands them cash and walks away, that kind of thing?
Shaq, to me, has a little boy trapped inside of a giant man's body kind of vibe. There occasionally you run into guys that have that sort of little boy type mentality.
He has, ironically, an impishness. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
7'1".
Well, like, what would you do, if you were 9 years old and someone said you have $1 billion? Like, what would you? I'd go into the jewelry store and just buy that guy a ring. Like these kind of impulses. Yeah. So it feels like it's like child's play with him.
But it's very sweet. His answer is always kind of like, I do this all the time. Just take it. It's kind of cool. Some sad Selma Blair news, but I guess I think that we all had a little bit of like a little surprise when we heard she was going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, because she has MS.
Yes, and it was pretty aggressive for a while. She danced her last dance on Dancing with the Stars this week before announcing she has to leave the show due to health concerns. The actress, she teared up as she told her partner, Sasha Farber, she's been monitored and in touch with her doctors, and the MRI results suggest that she should probably stop. Here's Selma providing a little more information. What doctor signed off on this to begin with?
Yeah, that's suspicious.
Because she was doing they did a montage.
It's her choice.
Oh, for sure. But there was a montage that was like Muppets and they're like jumping around and an overalls.
They have mafia doctors. That Ferdy Pacheco, he was the fight doctor. He's all these fight doctors. They must have dance doctors.
Sure. Dance doctor.
It's going there like this person's not fit to dance, but you go to the dance doctor, he'll sign off on it.
That was Piven in Heat. Remember, he was the mob doctor.
Yeah,
he fixed
there
up
must
Val
be
Kilmer.
dance.
That's right.
There's got to be dance doctors out there.
Well, you were there.
It's funny. Everyone gets injured in Dancing with the Stars.
Well, because they're not used to it.
I just kind of sailed right through it.
Well, you have to be there a number of weeks.
You got to be there a number of weeks.
Well, here's a little clip of her. They needed a very...
I did, as discussed on previous podcasts, I did pitch an epic fit in the asshole star department, but that was just because I wanted to do my unicycle reveal, and they wouldn't let me do it. But whenever I see one of those OTFs, those on the flies or whatever, they're talking about what's coming up. It's all the roll-in package before the dance begins. I just said, no unicycle talk, big reveal. And they just kept coming at me. Like, we want to get you footage of you practicing with the unicycle before the big unicycle reveal. The whole point was my partner was going to dance out there alone for 20 seconds, and then I was going to come out from the wings as Zorro. Mm-hmm. But if you show it during the roll-in package, then everyone knows where I am and what's about to happen. Had a discussion 26 times with a woman from Florida.
Oh, and it all went super well?
In the end.
At a certain point, I literally started screaming at her. I told everyone on the set, I said, hold your ears. This is not my normal MO, but we're now there. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's on, like Reggie in the Flubber. No, in
Love Flubber.
Oh, God. Well,
Nutty Professor?
Nutty Professor. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the insulting.
At a certain point, it was on. Yeah. I was throwing the karate moves and everything. I was like, everybody, just hold your ears. This is not what I do. And then I was like, I just fucking started screaming at her.
Wow.
Yeah, she couldn't stop. She couldn't stop. It was crazy. It was crazy. I laid the premise out of why she needed to stop with the unicycle stuff, and she wouldn't.
She had the one idea, the one track.
She wouldn't stop. Although, I got 1,000 tweets yesterday of a beaver trying to build a dam.
I saw that too.
And I've said all the time, producers, program directors, they're beavers and they do what they do. And if you put them on top of the Empire State Building, they would start looking for wood to build a dam. And this is what she was doing. She's like, we must film the unit. I'm like, you would destroy the whole concept of the reveal in the bit if you did this. She never understood it, which is weird. And then later on, she would ask me again, like, can we get some unicycle, whatever. The good news is you cannot force someone to ride a unicycle against their will. You can have sex with them. You can force feed them.
Steal from them.
You can do prepared statements from Al-Qaeda and things like that, but you cannot force a person to ride a unicycle if that person says, I shall not mount that unicycle. You can't do it for her. So, and later on, she would keep coming to me and she'd go, now we can get you on the unicycle? And I would say, oh, this is for the post package or the after package? She'd go, no, it's for the
pre-commercial.
And I would just go, how can I? It's weird when you can't convey an idea and this person's in the business.
A fairly simple concept.
Yeah.
Yes.
Straightforward.
Here's the beaver that
Just
is
in like
building a dam in a doorway.
Yeah.
My guy's on a unicycle.
He's got his little twigs. He's
a little twigs.
pushing him over.
He's pushing him over.
Yeah, the beaver's in a rehab facility.
It was nice of him
was he
to
a
bring him
drinker?
wood.
He's
Gina, please.
putting there's an open door, and he's a beaver, and
Sex rehab.
beavers build dams. Now, you look at it and you go completely unnecessary, but what do you think lawyers do who work for networks? You know what I mean? They tell you can't do stuff. That's just...
Oh, he's hopping.
That's what people do with their... We have 10 million laws in California. Why? Because the city council and the legislators are making laws. That's what they do. We elect them, we put them there, and they start coming up with shit, whether we want it or not. And at some point, we run out of, speeding, setting speed limits and how old you can be to drink or smoke. And then we get down to third aisles for bi-curious toddlers and stuff because they're out. And my thing is, it's just then stop.
Yeah.
If you're out of
Job
stuff,
well done.
they're going to
give yourself a pat on the back.
No, we got more to do. All right. Well, what was the end of her stuff?
I mean, if you want to see a nice waltz, although the song is so fucked out, but good for her for dancing. It's very gentle. It's a waltz. She's not having to do the crazy stuff.
She looks good.
Yeah.
It's an experience, man. I would recommend it to anybody.
I was there. Dawson, you were there too, right?
Yeah. I should have gotten a haircut. I was famously sat right between Lynette and Jimmy's heads. So my horrible haircut was right there.
Oh, boy. So a very dear friend of mine is a dancer, and she loves to dance and do couples dancing. She just started.
I don't trust that bitch.
It's Andy Parker's daughter, Lindsay, and she started at Arthur Murray with her UFO. She started at Arthur Murray with her
the drummer from UFO
fiance,
right.
And it sounds really fun. I think me and Andy are going to do it.
It's good.
Look, we didn't do it for the wedding. For us, that wasn't a thing. But now I think it'd be fun to learn to dance.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good just to do something different and work up a sweat and bond with your mate and all that kind of stuff.
If you never speak about it again, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'll sign off. Yeah, just don't discover the majesty of it.
I can't wait for the next cruise.
Oh, no.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
I'm against gay marriage. Boom.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.
Oh, God. San Diego Mic Drop coming up October 28th and 29th, doing some live pod there and some stand-up there. Wise Guys Comedy Club coming up, doing a live pod there in Vegas. St. Louis Helium Comedy Club, November 11th and 12th. So just go to adamcarolla.com for all the live stuff. Jenson Button, race car driver and heartthrob. The Williams Racing Experience, that's going to open today through Sunday in downtown Austin, so check that out. Ethan Wayne's got a pod out, John Wayne Gritcast. You'll find that wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Ethan Wayne and Jenson Button. Gina Grad and Paul Ryan saying, Mahalo.